Hello, my name is Autumn Brown, and I am a researcher with Oklahoma State's Oklahoma Oral History Research Project for our Activism and Education and Civil Rights Movement Oral History Project. Today, October 7th, 2020, I'm meeting with my dad, Keith Brown, to discuss his experiences with school segregation and desegregation in Oklahoma City. Dad, thanks for talking with me today. Let's just begin by telling me about yourself. So, tell me about yourself. Where were you born? Tell me about your family.
I was born in Oklahoma City. Raised in Spencer, Oklahoma. Have one older brother, um, who is still living, and dad is deceased. Uh, while growing up in the town of Spencer, um, did just basically typical thing that any youth would do in that town. Uh, it was more or less considered the country, and so I was more or less raised in the country.
So, what was your community like? What was the community like when you were growing up?
Community was like a more or less family type atmosphere, uh, close knit. Everyone knew each other. It's just family type atmosphere.
So, what schools did you attend?
Attended Dunjee Elementary and Dunjee High School. Graduated from Dunjee High School.
So, tell me about the school.
The school was a predominantly black school. It was probably roughly 400 students. The district, we changed district from year to year, as if we were passed around as an individual school. We were in the Choctaw and Tacoma Park district for a year or so, and they, we were removed from that. We were eventually ended up in the Oklahoma City public school.
And Dunjee was segregated.
Definitely so.
Okay. And what was it like attending a segregated school?
It was normal. I mean, just something that I was always accustomed to. So with me, it was just a normal thing.
So tell me about your teachers.
Teachers were really great teachers, and history played that out with a majority of them. They are not only contributing in the school district, but outside of the school district.
So, what teachers come to mind specifically?
Well, quite naturally, we had Clara Looper, which was my seventh grade math teacher, and we had Miss
Nancy?
Miss Davis, who was our home ec teacher, and those were the two that that everyone would be accustomed to. But we also had other great teachers. Our English teacher, Miss Combe, our phys ed teacher, Mr. Luster, Mr. Higgins, great history teachers, Mr. Adams. We had great teachers, and like I said, history played that out from year to year.
What do you mean history played that out?
I mean that, they not only, history played it out in that they succeeded not only at Dunjee, but on through the years when they were moved to other schools.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said Clara was your seventh grade math teacher?
Yes.
Everyone said she was taught history, so she taught math too?
She also taught math at Dunjee. Like I said, she was my seventh grade math teacher. Expectations were very high. You not only got math, you got, Black history during that time. And you were just, expectation was very high with her.
So, How old were you when you became aware of civil rights activism happening in the community?
Oh, actually, I was probably 12, 13 years old when it first, caught me, and I became aware of it.
What happened? What?
Well, basically, the way you were treated when you ventured outside of your community, your neighborhood, into basically the white neighborhood or the white stores in which we had to visit, whenever we, had the funds to visit.
Mm-hmm.
You were always treated, second class, always, had to wait until they, finished off with the white customers, and that was expected, coming up at that time. So,
How did that make you
didn't,
feel?
like a second class person, not good at all, didn't really want to deal with them, but you had to deal with them if you wanted the merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
So you just went through it.
So when a lot of people talk about education as like a means to get out and stuff like that. So when you consider what was happening on the outside of your community, how important did education become then because of what was happening?
Well, because of the situation surrounding you, and I sort of became aware of that, sort of, well, not early, but I understood that, the only way to get out of this situation, looking at my role models and how they were doing and everything, was always teachers and coaches. So, I knew that by having an education and by getting an education that you could get out of this environment, and you could be successful and improve your situation.
It's interesting because like some of the people I've interviewed, they say, they go into teachers. Teaching is kind of a gendered profession. So a lot of the women I talk to will say like, Clara Looper was my teacher. I want to be a teacher like her. But it's interesting to hear you say that, teaching, you saw teachers and coaches, and that was your trajectory or model going through education. And so, talk a little bit about that, like what it meant for you to see that and then go into the teaching profession.
Well, it's just their overall life. I mean, their living, the way they lived. They were always seemed like to me they were always happy. Uh, had always had great families. When I was fortunate enough to go into their home, the house was always standard. I mean, really nice. We didn't come up with just a great home, and going into their home was something that I wanted. And they had a great family. Like I said, they were always happy. Seemed like, and that to me just inspired me to really think seriously about education.
Yeah. And so talk about like teachers, how important teachers were then, because now I feel like teaching as a profession has so watered down.
Well, back then there was more of, they took more interest and had the ability to raise you more and to guide and direct you more than they do now, because of the laws and all of the standards that they have in education now, which makes it watered down. But back then, they had the authority to do pretty much anything that they wanted to, with the with the backing of your parents. And back then it was so that you didn't want your parents to know that you got in trouble at school, uh, in fear that they were going to punish you again. But now it seems as if in our education system now that the kids want you to call their parents, because they know that they will defend them regardless. And the majority of the time they are in the wrong, but the parents will defend them to the kill. And
Mm-hmm.
So it's just totally turned, you know.
So teaching was a noble profession.
It was back then. It was noble, but now you're the doormat pretty much for society.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So what was the economic climate like during the time you were growing up?
Time I was growing up, you know, I really didn't look at that, you know, real closely. We were poor. We were poor, and I didn't know we were poor. You know, but we had food on the table every day. We had clean clothes to wear to school. Our house was always clean. We had money to buy our lunch. I know a lot of kids at our school did not have the funds to purchase their lunch each day, but we always had money to buy lunch every day, and we always had uh, extra money to buy little extra things. So, but we were poor. We were poor, but we just didn't know it. Our parents worked and provided and did whatever it took for us to be, you know, to have these things. Mm-hmm. But we were still so far behind other people. But you know, we were happy. So.
So, like, with the community being so close-knit, was there opportunities for, you know, neighbors to supplement if need be or help each other out in areas?
Well, back then, it was just a common thing for neighbors to help one another and to be concerned and take an interest, show an interest into their neighbors and their kinfolks and their neighbors, you know. So that was just a common thing.
So, what were the conditions of the school? Considering that it's a segregated school, I feel like the narrative around segregated schools is run down, torn books.
The school was I remember it as being clean, and it was clean and it was well kept. Quite naturally, we didn't have half the material or the books or supplies that was needed for us to be modern, up to date. We always had hand-me-downs, but with the teachers that we had, they took advantage of whatever they had, and we had a lot of successful people come from there with just the material that we had. But we were so far behind in everything. But once again, you know, we didn't know it. We didn't know it because we had never experienced what, you know, everyone else had experienced. So we didn't know. We just took advantage of what we had and ran with it and did the best you could do.
Mm-hmm. So what do you remember from your teachers making use of the second class materials and resources?
They what you mean them? They did what they could do with it. Mm-hmm. You know, they always asked for updated and modern equipment and from the district. But like I said, we were passed around each year, you know, and you didn't ask for too much for fear of being passed to another district or being just independent, where you really struggled as an independent during that time. So they asked and got what they wanted them to have.
So this is completely random, but Dunjee High School is named after Rosco Dunjee. And I'm reading a lot more about how important he was. Did y'all learn about Rosco Dunjee?
Rosco Dunjee, there was a picture, a photograph of him, of him in our auditorium. And they didn't really promote, you know, what he, you know, really had did and his contribution to society was never stressed to you as an individual or as a student at Dunjee. You did have certain people who did research and knew certain things. I'm sure they didn't know everything he had done because of the books and stuff that they had to research from. But there were some that knew his importance to society and what he had contributed. But there was a lot more that didn't know than did.
Wow. So, what were tensions like as you graduated from Dunjee, so you never experienced like school busing or desegregation, but can you recall what the tensions were like as Oklahoma started to transition into desegregation?
But it was just totally wild from what I've seen. I was early college student at that time when they started busing, and it was just totally wild, out of control. A lot of rejection from both sides, more or less from the whites who just rejected or refused to have the black kids come into their neighborhood or into their school and and socialize with them. They were just always, they were taught that they were second class citizens, second class people, violent, abusive, just, they just didn't want to socialize with them. And it was really tough during that time.
Did you go to Langston?
I went to Langston my first year, not really knowing. I know I had researched a lot of colleges on my own, but just knowing that financially I wasn't going to be able to attend any of those schools, and majority of them was out of state. But I had researched them and read up on them, and had applied for one or two of them, but when it really came to them, was accepted, but when it came down to it, didn't have the funds, so I had to scratch that, and I ended up in Langston my first year. It was a good year. Kind of got to know what college life was about and what it took to be successful. I must say that my first year was adjustment. It was a lot of adjustment at Langston. Langston was Langston was kind of, it was hard in itself. The conditions, the condition was at times horrible. You might have running water, you might not. Your restrooms and stuff was just deplorable at times. The food, you appreciate the food that you got there. But if you had a can of Spam in your room, you wouldn't even think about going to the cafeteria because nothing in the cafeteria would be better than fried Spam sandwich. Yeah. So that's what you was working with at Langston. It was an adjustment. It was new for me, but adjusting to the classroom was also new, and it was different, and it was more demanding than it was at Dunjee. At Dunjee, I wasn't the brightest person there, but I could pick it up pretty quick. And at Langston, you had to attend the class, and the class could be at certain times, and you had to attend it, and not only attend it, back at Dunjee, the teachers pushed you and, kept on you. And at Langston, in any college, they give you the assignment and you either take it or you don't, you do it or you don't. And I learned that from Langston. So Langston taught me a lot of things that led to my graduation from college. I knew what I had to do when I left Langston and ventured to another school.
And where did you go after Langston?
Well, when I left Langston, I've been to several colleges and universities. I left Langston, went to UCO as I didn't stay on campus at UCO, so I commuted back and forth from home. And my home and the community caught up with me and didn't really go to classes like I should, so that didn't work out right. So I left UCO after a year there and I thought I wanted to go to Cameron in Lawton to play baseball, because that's what I really wanted to do. At Langston, I was going to walk on. in baseball. I had a scholarship at UCO, but I don't know why I didn't take it. All my buddies was going to Langston, so I went to Langston and going to OOHRP. So I thought I wanted to go to Cameron. I went to Cameron and took all my stuff and got my room and everything and stayed there all of about 3 or 4 hours, packed up, went back home, stayed at home a semester, and ended up finally at OCC where baseball. I had some offers there, so I ended up at OCC and graduated from OCC.
And that's Oklahoma Christian.
Oklahoma Christian.
Was Oklahoma Christian predominantly white?
97, 98, 90, about 99.
So what was it like going from Dunjee to Langston? You spent a little bit of time at UCO, but essentially going from all black to all white.
Well, going from Dunjee to Langston was, like I said, adjustment for the classroom and expectation. But going from Langston to Oklahoma Christian, it was like night and day. I thought, they got, you got a dessert, you got 2 or 3 different drinks, and I thought you had to be that they were certain denomination. I mean, they were Church of Christ. I thought it was called Church of Christ. They gave you 3 or 4 different drinks or gave you this or that, because at Langston, if you wasn't first in line for desserts or meals, sometimes they ran out and you just didn't get it. Wow. So, like night and day. No one locked their room at Oklahoma Christian. The only person locked their rooms at Oklahoma Christian was the black people. They were friendly. The only one that locked their cars out in the parking lot was the blacks, and the blacks had the hoopty, and the whites had all brand new cars and leave it wide open. They would throw the keys to you, let you drive their car. But, it was different, like night and day.
Wow. So, you talked about having Clara Looper as a teacher and Nancy Davis. Can you talk about them, like, personally? Did you, outside of the school, did you know them in the community?
Miss Davis lived in the same community that I lived in. She stayed probably about 3 or 4 blocks from me. Miss Davis had a lot of great cherry trees, and me and my friends, we ventured from block to block and from fruit to fruit, and so every once in a while we would have a taste for some cherries, so we would braid her cherry tree. But yeah, Miss Davis, we knew her kids, grew up about 4 blocks from me,
Cool. So when you became a teacher, schools are completely desegregated at that time?
Totally, yeah, they were.
So what was it like for you to become a black male teacher in these predominantly white schools? What was that experience like?
Well, when I came out of school, college, and went into school, it was predominantly white. But all of the schools that I worked at, it was low income, and that motivated me and inspired me, working with that type of a kid, because I could relate. Coming from my neighborhood and from my community. So I didn't really see it as being a predominantly predominantly white district or school. I just kept my focus on helping the black that we did have in that particular school. And I did that also all the way through my career, in the middle school and in the elementary.
And how many years have you been in education?
Been in education now about 44 45 years now. I retired after 41, went back after 1 year of sitting out. And
Having spent so long in education, can you talk about how like education has changed from the type of education received has changed from when you were in school to now? Because one thing, like mom talked about, she had Black history all year round. So I guess, and I've never had a Black history class.
mm-hmm.
So how has like the type of education you received changed? And also like, how is it different for you guys? Because in my head, I think when people push education, it's like, we need y'all to become doctors, lawyers, because we can't go to hospitals and stuff like that. So the need was there. But how has that kind of changed?
I think, in a way, uh, I think Black as a society, from back when I was growing up, have become a little bit weaker because of you know opportunities, because of all the opportunities and the gimmies, the hand me down. Back when I was growing up, people didn't ask for handouts, and you didn't see handlers, and you didn't see any of that. But now you see a lot of that. People expect you to give them something. Uh, they don't want to work. People worked back then. They wanted to work. They didn't have a lot of opportunities, a lot of places to work at, but they would work. But people won't work now. They have more opportunities. I just think education has been watered down. Uh, you can only do so much with a kid. Uh, we have so much. We never had more special ed teachers in a building than we had regular core teachers in a building. But nowadays you have just as many special ed teachers, uh, LD, just all kind of. It's ridiculous. Uh, I think that has to do with a lot. It has to do with parenting. I think parenting have been watered down. We don't have parenting now. If you look in education and in the schools, you have grandparents raising kids now, more grandparents than parents. Uh, and they've served their time. They're tired. They can't control these kids now, and consequently, we're having more delinquents, more juvenile, uh, because of this, and also because of regular parent not knowing how to parent. Uh, Kids raising themselves. Education is not education anymore. Is with a kid. It's raising a kid. It's feeding him. It's providing for him. It's protecting him. It's everything. Uh, it's just a different. It's a different beast now in education.
Mm-hmm. So, do you think Brown worked when Brown passed? Like, how do you feel about Brown? And I'll tell you why I ask. When I talk about Brown, I consider Brown and desegregation to have stopped Black advancement. Like, and not to say that we should still be segregated, but in my opinion, I feel like Black advancement was on the rise, and then Brown happened, and then we just like plateaued. So,
Yeah, I think Brown had, it's both pro and con. I mean,
right.
you know, I can see, the desegregation, but I think, man, like I said, I think that, yeah, Brown, and I'm not objecting to him, or, I mean, to whatever, but boy, I think that, that did stop a lot of advancement. That did, I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Because
But
people call it like a blessing and a curse.
yeah,
Because
right.
I mean, of course, being treated like a second-class citizen is not okay.
Yeah,
But then everyone, I mean, the community was so close knit. The
it was.
schools.
Yeah, it's totally different. It was totally different, and it just changed everything. It put a little curve in it, and that curve, man, is something that we need to get back. We need to get out of that curve, and I don't know. So what do? You sacrifice this for that, or I just don't. I don't know.
I know the answer isn't clear. The
Yeah.
answer is unclear. Okay, well, is there anything else you'd like to add about your experience growing up, going through Dunjee with these teachers? Anything?
Well, my time at Dunjee, I enjoyed it. Met had a lot of people there that I grew up with and stayed in contact with over the years. Uh, I think Dunjee benefited the community at that particular time. Uh, I think Dunjee was a motivator of the community. I think it brought the community together. It brought the community together, and it let the outside world know that there is a Spencer, Oklahoma. You know.
Cool. Well, thank you.
All right, then.